So this actually is, let me move on. This is very much sort of a continuing conversation we started back in February when we were invited by the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government to run a community visioning workshop just the night before their major conference called Better Design for Better Places back in February. And the aim of the event was essentially to develop a community-led vision that would help us understand better communal housing and neighbourhood design, particularly within the context of changing demographics. And that was very much the starting point, is understanding the changing demographics. And what we found out is that, as most of us already know, we're living in a society that's becoming increasingly diverse culturally and ethnically. We're also living longer, and so we have an ageing situation, with more people living longer and living alone. And also, in the case of Birmingham, we have a very young population living in the city. So within all of that, we made sure that we invited 40 people, very much looking at their backgrounds. It was very, you might say, controlled and managed to ensure we had people from extended families, people from empty nesters, same-sex couples, all kinds of different household types, so that we could actually get the right kind of information from these different people. So that was one of the major successes, I think, of that event. The other thing that was quite special about it was that we had facilitators working with urbanists, and quite a few of them are in the audience today. Essentially we had the facilitators working with these diverse households, and the urbanists were like visual rapporteurs, doing very quick, rough and ready sketches and drawings as people were speaking. So I'm going to show you some of these sketches. Excuse the finesse, but that was the idea of the whole workshop, is to appreciate the various ideas that were coming forward in a very quick and ready fashion. So we started with 3 statements, followed by 3 questions, and then 3 aims. The first statement was that the demand for housing has never been higher. Do we want to build housing estates or neighbourhoods? And the aim of the workshop was then to design the livable neighbourhood. This actually means a place where we socialise, not just sleep. And we did a kind of a mapping exercise to understand what activities people did in their neighbourhood or wanted to do. The second statement was loneliness and isolation are impacting our lives, and we've already heard from Leo some statistics. In fact, there's 1 million people over 65 who identify as lonely on a daily basis, which is a lot of people. So can we design places that help us stay connected with people? And that led us then to the second aim of the workshop, which is to design the livable streets, a place with ample opportunity for people to do things together, practically on our doorstep as we design these housing estates. The third statement was that society is changing. We're living longer, we're more diverse, and we're living longer alone. So what choice of housing will meet our changing needs over our lifetime? And the third aim of the workshop was then designing the adaptable home. And the idea was to explore how we use our homes over time and to consider how we can adapt spaces with those changes. So we came up with 4 recommendations. The first one is to build communities, to start designing housing with the social activities in mind first. We started by asking what activities do people need in their neighbourhood, and how far were they prepared to travel, and what is the most convenient way they could get there. So what we came up with, clearly from the various groups, was that people want a 5-minute neighbourhood. That is where the intensity and density of these social facilities and activities can take place. They placed a lot of importance on this idea of a community hub, which is where several activities could be co-located together, like a library, a school, a hall, a playing field, a place of worship, and a place to share food seem to come up as recurring themes. They also wanted activities and places that needed to be open for all hours, almost all hours, multi-use, intergenerational, and free or low in cost. Green spaces was also a common theme. A lot of this, of course, is not new information, but a lot of emphasis on green spaces being very close to home, with food growing, and as very much sort of a key theme that ran through all of this, particularly across all the demographics and all the groups. Our second recommendation was to build neighbourhoods, and here we recommended designing housing with integrated social spaces in close proximity. We brainstormed a range of activities that we already do in the home that we could do together. Things like having an extra guest house for a group of houses, or a shared kitchen, or a shared place to do your laundry, or a place to do your homework or to work if you're working from home. These could be spaces that were in very close proximity to your home. But this also tied in very much with the idea of a community hub as simply a place where all of these various activities could take place. Our third recommendation was to build quality homes to last. And here the idea on quality wasn't just simply aesthetic or adaptability, but more the experience of being in the home. And people use words like joyful, bright, spacious, soundproof, beautiful, and connected to the neighbourhood. Other functional aspects were also considered, things like building small footprints, making sure we have spaces that can be adapted, whether they can be converted or subdivided in different ways, but also being energy and waste efficient. But the other thing that I think was interesting that came out was people didn't want template housing. They wanted diversity. Diversity that was not just in terms of style, but also form, and very much responsive to site and location. Our final recommendation was to build connections between places. This is really about connecting all of the activities of life with the home. And this is achieved by designing habitable streets, places where people could socialise in the street safely, well overlooked and well lit. But also integrating design of different ways to get around very much within the infrastructure of the place. So our simple message was that people want to be engaged in the design and development of their housing. They very much want it to be places where they're going to live their whole life, 360-degree life. And I think as practitioners, we have a duty to build neighbourhoods, not housing estates, if we want to reduce loneliness and to build places that satisfy all of these different life needs. And so that brings us to the end of just a quick précis of the conversations we're going to have now, presentations initially. And then what I wanted to do was invite Jenny Thomas from the Ministry of Housing, Head of Built Environment, to also engage with us. We want to have a positive, meaningful conversation between practitioners and government.